Texas has introduced a bill that could put the Bible into your kid's classroom. So let's talk about that for a second. There's some very important things to know about this bill before anybody goes any further. And I want to establish those things because it's very important to the argument, whether you are for it or against it, that you need to know before you pick a side. Number one, this is a voluntary thing. Schools will have the choice to integrate it in or not, which means it'll probably be voted on by the school board, and the parents will have their say on whether or not their school participates in it. Your voice isn't getting taken away. Number one thing to establish. Two, there's going to be some funding if schools do participate in it. There's a $40 per student and then a $20 per student, which combined together it's about $60. Now, part of that funding isn't for them to put in the bank per se. It's to pay for learning materials on the subject. So everybody's in line with the same thing. That's very important too. They're not necessarily putting a dollar head on your students and your children's head over this thing. Another point, and this really to me is probably one of the more important points about it. It's kindergarten through third grade, and it's only going to delve into Genesis and how it pertains to modern society, laws, and culture, like the Golden Rule. I don't know a single person that doesn't want to be treated the same way they treat other people. Now, that is very important to establish. So let's get into this a little bit. One thing that also needs to be established. First of all, I'm not going to give my opinion on this until the very end of the video. I'm just stating some things that you need to think about before you jump on a side of this or not. You need to acknowledge, whether you are a believer or not, that the Bible is historical text. It has influenced civilizations, culture, societies, and laws. Many of the laws we actually live by today here in America have their foundations from the book of Genesis. Now that's important to know and realize. Again, you don't have to believe in it, but you need to acknowledge that the Bible is a text that has affected worldwide history. So let's get into some of the things that have been founded upon what's in the book of Genesis. So I'm going to go rapid fire here because this video is going to turn long. But many of the rules and principles and values in Western cultural and legal traditions trace their origins to that book of Genesis in the Bible. Some of those origins are moral and social laws, which are like the sanctity of life. Genesis talks about how humans are created in the image of God, and it forms a foundation for the belief in inherent dignity and value in every person. This underpins the modern ideas of human rights and laws against murder. That's established in Genesis. Marriage and family. It introduces the concept of marriage and union between two people. And it says a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined with his wife to be one, basically. This has influenced laws about marriage, family, structure, and fidelity that we have today. The weekend. It talks about Sabbath rest. It describes God resting on the seventh day, establishing a precedent for observing a day of rest, which includes the labor laws and the concept of the weekend that we all love today. It talks about civil laws and justice. It teaches accountability and consequences. The story of Cain and Abel shows the principle and accountability for one's actions. Cain's punishment reinforces the idea of actions have consequences, a foundation for criminal law. It talks about property rights. Genesis speaks of humans having dominion over the earth, a basis for property ownership and stewardship laws. Equality under God. Genesis emphasizes that all humans are made in God's image, which supports principles of equality and fairness in modern day law. Ethical principles, it teaches about that. Honesty, integrity. The story of Jacob and Esau, it highlights the consequences of deceit, reinforcing the value of honesty in personal and business relationships. It talks about hospitality and kindness. Abraham's hospitality to strangers in Genesis 18 sets an example for caring for others, influencing social ethics and laws around charity that we have today. It talks about environmental stewardship, care for creation. Genesis says Adam was placed in the Garden of Eden to work it and keep it, serving as a basis for environmental laws and sustainable practices. I don't know anybody that doesn't want to take care of Mother Earth. Contractual agreements, talks about covenants and promises. For instance, God's covenant with Noah has influenced the understanding of contracts and agreements in both religious and secular law. So these principles show how themes and teachings of Genesis have shaped societal norms, ethics, and legal systems. Okay, so what do I think? Well, I believe that religion should not be mixed with school. And let me explain that to you. First of all, you should know this about me. I'm a Christian. I'm a believer. My dad was a minister my entire life. I was raised in the church. I believe. However, my kids are not at school to learn about sin. My kids are not there to learn about religious things. Let's just put it that way. I am fully for them teaching about what the Bible is. Not in what's in it, but what it is. It has influenced all of us. Even if you're not a believer, it has influenced you. Because some of the laws we all live under have been influenced by the shaping of what's in that Bible. Now, whether you're for it or against it, it's just you need to know that it's being sensationalized as they're going to transition your kids to Christian. That is not at all what this bill is about. You need to know that they are not having Bible study. They're going to talk about the Bible, its historical impact on how we live today. It's that simple. Now, I don't have a problem with that. But I don't want you teaching my kid about communion. I don't want you teaching my kid about salvation. I don't want you teaching my kid about things that I want to teach them. So how do you feel about it? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to have your thought.